This beautiful view of the pit area here on East Vacation Island, Mission Bay. 7 boats in the water. We do have a little bit of news, Steve. The 21, not hearing my prediction, opted not to become the trailer boat. The 11, Peters and May, will instead. So Tom Thompson will be the trailer boat in the final heat, and that'll round out our 7-boat field. It'll be Jimmy Shane, J. Michael Kelly, Scott Liddycote, Jimmy King, Cal Phipps, and Mike Ekert in the front line. Tom Thompson and the 11, Peters and May, the trailer boat. Always kind of exciting this time of the day. We've seen a lot of great racing. Now we have all the best boats in the water at the same time.
It is, Steve. And San Diego is always, particularly when it's the last race of the season, kind of melancholy, because you know when this one's over, it's a long time to the next race. Our first race next year, chances are going to be in June. We hope we're going to be in Owensboro, Kentucky for an exhibition race. And then on a Madison, and we hope we're going to be able to develop the Coeur d'Alene into a race, potentially one in Canada as well. And we have a gentleman here from Mexico this year who's a very legitimate guy who puts on some pretty big boat races down there in car races, and he's been with us all weekend. He's working with Ted. Ted will be going down there. There's also a chance for Gunnersville, Alabama, coming back as a spring testing session for the Midwest boats just before Madison as well. That's courtesy of the good folks that own the 27 boat, the Wiggins family. I keep saying Ted Grange, our ops director, he's now vice president of operations, will be going there on that course. So some good possibilities for next year. We've got some good possibilities for series sponsors. In the end, Steve, it gets down to money because these teams take money to run.
Hablo español, pero no muy bien.
Sí, hablo español, pero no muy bien myself.
Well, you're from Miami or somewhere.
Exactly. You know, the last 6 years, Steve, when the teams left here, they were going over to the Mideast to Doha, Qatar. This is the first year in 6 we're not going there. So this is going to be a long off season, but a chance to get all of these boats truly race ready again for the 16 season.
1 to the 5 to the 5. We are 11 minutes away from the flag dropping at the start of our winner take final. We have a couple of minutes here, Steve David. You talked about possible additions to the schedule for next year. You continue to grow the sport. All of us who have followed it for so long really appreciate the effort. What else can you tell us about the plans for the future of H1 Unlimited?
Well, the webcasting you're seeing now, that's going to continue next year. We're in negotiations with ESPN3 and our producers at Sound Q to figure out how we can make that happen, because you've all experienced today we can't have gaps in the schedule, and boat racing, unfortunately, by its nature, is going to have gaps. So we're working to see what we can do to put things in the can in advance to fill in those time gaps and go with them. We will be on the Go Live Sportscast website more than likely next year. So we are going to be on the web again next year. We're trying to increase these race sites. A good chance for a series sponsor coming on board. Boat count wise, again, yesterday 10 boats committed to me that they're going to join us again next season. So I think we're going to be between 10 and 13 boats again for next season. We may have 1 or 2 new owners. You've seen the V12 power plant. Kay talked about it earlier. They hope to have that on the dyno in December, and we hope to have that in a hull for next year.
A lot of developments on the horizon. It's been an exciting year, and the good news is every year the past several has been better than the one before. So.
Yeah, competition's been terrific this year. We'll be working on rules in the winter to try to make the racing as fair as we can, try to take officials out of it as much as we can. It's a tough job being official, and anybody that would like to try to be an unlimited official, I welcome you to come out and try one of these things. It's tough. We do the best we can. The officials do the best they can. It's a balls and strikes kind of deal, but I think I've got the best group of officials, Steve, we've had in the sport. And mind you, was racing Unlimiteds for 25 years, so I ran underneath a lot of them, but Don Melillo, a lot of folks in our past that did an outstanding job, and this new crew with Brian Haney and Doug Brow and Doug Shelton and the others are just really doing a good job. But we're going to try to give them rules that'll be easier to enforce, easier to understand for the drivers. We'll be working with the owners on possibly some new start formats for next year, and we'll be doing some surveys with our friends on the web and Facebook on our website to get their ideas on those starts. We want to try to make it so boats aren't taken out basically before the start of the race.
Almost everybody on the internet has a different idea about how the races should be started.
I cannot tell you the number of times people have said you need to call Apple, you need to call AT&T.
Right.
And believe me, I do, but what I welcome you to do is if you know somebody there, you get me in the door and I'll do the talking.
Well, your fallback plan on officiating
yes.
should be Debbie.
I think so.
30 years in a fourth grade classroom.
Any school teacher will straighten this thing right out.
Should work pretty good, right?
But it's tough raising money. If people know people, I would be delighted to call them. We've all got real jobs, Steve. You're now recently retired, but we suckered you back in. But all of us on H1, we're unpaid. We're volunteers because we love the sport, and we all have real livelihoods to do. So unfortunately, it's a part-time passion thing to pursue. So if people know people who know people, I'm delighted to meet with them and try to make this thing happen. It gets down to money again. You got to pay good people to go out and sell this stuff, and right now we're not in that position.
Well, it's been a good year. It's about to come to a conclusion, which we expect to be a very dramatic conclusion. Are we looking at the winner of our final heat and the 2015 Bayfair?
This is a race that creates surprises. We've had a person, in fact, Mike Hansen, driving the Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, which was the Miss Madison, won from the back of the field here in 1993 as a trailer boat. We've had the Alberto who thought they won last year, only to find out they actually had a penalty. I've won, only to find out I jumped by 10 feet. I won to find out I had a technical violation, which was fixed 2 months later. So you never know here. San Diego is a big surprise. If the one gets clearly out in front and away from everybody, obviously the odds-on favorite. A lot of it's going to matter. Where do they start? Is there anything that happens pre-race? Is the 27 inside of him? Is the 9 inside of him? Does he have enough speed to drive around all those boats? Is the 3, going to be a surprise in this thing? So anybody's race. The one's the odds-on favorite, but this has always been anybody's race.
We talked earlier about the fact that J. Michael Kelly's boat is not what it was in Tri-Cities in Seattle. The bump apparently had quite an effect. Now, I talked to him during our break there, and I asked him how was the boat. He said better, but not like it used to be.
Yeah, they're going to.
So we know that J. Michael doesn't have the kind of boat we saw under him in Tri-Cities in Seattle. We've got to be realistic here. If somebody beats Jimmy Shane in this final, it's going to be an upset.
Absolutely, because he is the outside favorite. He's a top qualifier by, 2 miles an hour or so than anybody else. So, as you say, if they get an inside lane, Jimmy's going to have to go faster. If they can push Jimmy out to lane 3 or 4, real good chance of winning. But Jimmy doesn't give up lanes easily. I raced against him for a number of years when he was driving for Formula Boats. Tough driver, tough kid. He's going to fight for a lane.
If you put the Alberto out in lane 4 or 5 with Cal Phipps, a driver of that quality, in lane 1, we could easily have that upset.
Oh, yeah. You'll see this course get as wide as the state of California if Cal's on the inside and the Alberto's in lane 4.
So we'll have to keep an eye on Jimmy Shane. Where does he put the Alberto? Does he play a little bit conservative, or does he stick his nose in there? There's always a danger being on the inside. If you somehow are not the first boat to the first turn and you're on the inside, you're in trouble.
We are, but he's won the national championship. He won the APBA Gold Cup. So really, this race he wants to win, right? You want to cap off a winning season. So I think you're going to see him, depending who's inside, you're going to see him fight to be in an inside lane because there's too many odds in a final. If you're out too far, somebody's ahead of you and keeps making you go wider and wider.
4, 3, 2, 1, mark. 5 minutes. We have turbines spooling up right under our location here.
Steve, the final heat of the 2015 series, about our 107th or 108th year of unlimited hydroplane racing with the American Powerboat Association. It all gets down to this heat. Forget what's happened all weekend. Forget the emotions all weekend. Forget what you broke. This heat determines the winner-take-all final.
You can tell that Frank, our director here on the tower, likes that shot of the propeller, and it is pretty cool when they are spooling up and heading out.
By the way, Kelly and Frank with SoundQ out of Michigan have been our people that have been doing all of our webcast. Outstanding job. The camera angles, the quality of the camera angles, the sound. We appreciate your kind words on Facebook and h1unlimited.com about what they're doing. It's going to get better and better because, Steve, you and I have been trying to figure this thing out during the year, and it does improve each time and will get better.
James Crisp, back in, our buddy the photographer from Owensboro.
James, a great guy.
Told me that he hooked his computer up to his 55-inch screen and watched this yesterday. He said it was high-definition television. It was like watching NFL, and that is something we haven't had before.
And you got to meet James Crisp. James Crisp is, he's an AP-rated photographer. His pictures have been everywhere. I think some of the pictures of that supervisor in Kentucky were his that made the newspaper and national television. But great fan of the sport. We say hi to James Crisp back in Kentucky as well.
Crispy,
I call him Crispy. And again, the Shaneth family out of Detroit, Michigan, thank you so much for everything and getting the 811 sponsorship here on the 9 boat. Obviously, the folks in Madison, Indiana for 50-something years of racing. Home Street Bank for helping out the Cooper Express boat, Graham Trucking, Rob Graham, and all the good people at Graham Trucking.
Car Stars coming on board the 100, doing a great job for Stacy
Going
Briseño.
faster and faster and faster, and Car Stars stick with them. They're going to get faster. And Dalton Industries and the Tolliver family, man, are they making that 27 run. So to
Mike Ekert in the 100 Miss Car Stars in the front row of the final heat. How
this
about
is
that?
huge for them. So again, anybody's race, but thank you to all the sponsors that have been on board. Thank you again to Dalton Industries, the Tollivers, Dalton Tolliver herself, and all of our other sponsors. This is getting exciting, Steve. Here's a gut check for everybody racing. Where do I want to be? Don't make any mistakes. Don't get hosed down. This is tense because it's not just you and your plan. You got to realize everybody else has a plan out here.
And there are more boats on the water than we've had any time this weekend. So there's less room for a mistake of any kind, particularly in this milling period. Here's Jimmy Shane's coming by us all by himself out here. He's into turn 2.
I think his goal, Steve, is he wants to be far enough down the home straightaway that nobody can cut through the infield and still have enough speed to do it. Now, watch these red boats. Okay, just what we said. Look what's happening. You got 2 cut through the infield, but they have to have 2 buoy lengths to take away Shane's lane.
And they're not going to have it. J. Michael Kelly is going to get to the front straightaway right there. And Jimmy moved over a little bit.
And he had to cut through his tail. Oh, boy. And it may have shut down the fire. No, it's still going, but it almost put the fire out.
But when he went through that rooster tail, there was a boat coming up on his right. On the other side of the rooster tail. Now here is a boat coming through the infield one more time.
And I think they're thinking they're too early. He wants to come around and get another crack at it.
The jockeying continues. The 11 is done. Is it out? Apparently the 11 that was going to be our trailer boat is out. The 7 is on the course.
What was that call?
Jesse Robertson has been sent out to be the trailer boat. The 11 apparently is not.
Roger, 11 is dead.
Is not going to be racing. So Jesse Robertson is going to be sent out to be the trailer boat.
Yeah. We have a backup trailer boat. Jesse Robertson getting another shot on the Graham Trucking boat because the 11 broke down.
Now we're waiting for the 1 minute countdown. It may be coming up here as the field is on the backstretch moving toward us.
Steve, take a look. The Alberto, he wanted to be in lane 1. He wanted to win this thing, and he got it. I told you, the kid doesn't take anything for granted. Now look at the 3, however, in lane 1. So Home Street Bank is on lane 1, but he's got to pick it up. He just got a warning. He's got to pick up the speed. He's got 5 seconds to pick it up. This is tight. Look at, man, look at the distance between the 1. I mean, you got 4 boats. You got 2, 3, and 4 right next to each other.
And we heard officials shouting, pick it up, pick it up. I think more than one boat had slowed down a little
that was
bit
a warning, I believe, to the Home Street boat.
Moving slowly through turn 2 now. Over on the inside, it is Jimmy King in the 3, the piston-powered boat. We didn't hear the 1 minute countdown, Steve. Are we coming to the start?
Yeah, we're coming up for the start. So far, they're legal. They're at 80. There has not been a penalty yet, but they're all early.
Here's the countdown to the start. 4, 3, 2, 1, mark.
Home Street Bag, Steve, I think he got so low he lost boost with that Allison, and it took away the power, took away the acceleration.
The boat on the inside into the turn is the one that started in lane 3. That is Jimmy Shane and the Alberto. The start is under review. Okay. It was not a clear-cut okay. They're going to have to review the start. Now boats through the turn. The one closest to you, I believe, is the Alberto as he turns toward us in about lane 2. Well, there are 3 boats there. Look at this, 4 boats, Steve.
It looks like 27 in lane 2, the Alberto in lane 1. Lane 3, I think, is going to be the 5. Outside of him, I believe, is the 9. They're running together. Alberto's got the lane advantage, but that is 4 fast unlimiteds. And the Home Street Bank is on the inside behind him coming up strong.
Look at this boat race, but Jimmy Shane has the lead and the inside into turn 2. The Alberto Beef Jerky is our leader, coming down to complete lap 1.
He got the lane he wanted, Steve. The guy's a championship driver. He wasn't going to give it away. Now, 811 Dig, I believe, is the boat that is in second position right now. Third behind him is the 27. That story with the 811 is a true comeback story from yesterday. But look at Home Street Bank, Steve.
It was a good start, by the way. The start was okay, so The alignment on the water is exactly what we have officially. Here comes Jimmy Shane.
Don't count Home Street Bank out yet, Steve. The 3 is really cranking up the inside behind those guys. What happened is at the start, I think he lost the boost. In that big Allison engine, you got to have boost, manifold pressure for acceleration. He lost it, got it back, but it took a while.
Look at this boat race. Look at all the water in the air. 5 rooster tails on the backstretch. Jimmy Shane leading. Remember, it's a 5-lap final, Steve David. We got a long way to go.
A long way to go. Jimmy's in good shape up front, but the race for second, third, and fourth is tight. You got 811 Dig running good. As soon as he gets a little bit of room, he needs to go in and shut the door because he's got Home Street back there, and he's also got another guy on the inside. The 27's got to tighten up, or he's going to get beat from the inside. The number 5 Graham Trucking.
Jim, there's Jay Michael. Jay Michael was inside the Rooster Tails when they came by. He's actually in third place, but he has Cal Phipps off to his right. That's the race for third place, and those two are side by side.
And that's a case where Cal needed to tighten up to hold the 5 tight, but 5's in a good position now. He's just got to get through this turn clean, try to run down the 9. Obviously, the Oberto, odds-on favorite like we talked about if he did make a mistake. Jimmy's a champion. He didn't make a mistake.
Kelly in the 5 is running inside the wake of the 811 Dig, and he's picking up a lot of water here. Scott Liddycoat in second place. That's a great job of driving by that young man from Virginia.
Particularly after last year where they didn't know if they were going to have an engine that was going to live. He's won some heats today. He's in a great position. At some point, though, he's probably going to want to move over to what we do, say, close the door so the 5 can't come up with him. Now, the 27's pulling up on the outside. So
Cal Phipps coming up on Scott Liddycoat. Liddycoat still has a rooster tail.
See the Graham and the rooster tail?
Over on the inside, yes.
Now, the 9 needs to get 7 boat lengths to come over and to shut him down. If not, there's a possibility that Graham could run him down. This is where you got second, but you want to make sure nobody's going to pass you. But you also don't want to come over on somebody and hose him down illegally. That's going to be an interesting race between second and third and the 27 running up.
3 laps in the book. We're more than halfway done. Jimmy Shane has 2 laps remaining, actually a lap and 2/3 now as he comes off of turn 1. For the 4th time, he'll head up the back chute right at us. He has a nice lead now on the second place driver, Scott Liddycoat. Scott just now coming off the turn. Just got to keep it on the water, Jimmy Shane, and you're going to win this thing.
And boy, this is the time you start hearing things, Steve. You got a lead, you got the national championship. You're hearing weird stuff. It isn't happening, but you're hearing it. Look at the race, Steve, again for second, third. Oberto clearly in front, but between the 9 and the 5 and the 3, the 27. It looks like the 5 had some engine problems, Steve, and went back a bit.
Liddycoat moved over to the inside, so he's protecting that lane. Cal Phipps is in third now.
Home Street's moved up to 4th, Steve.
Little ways behind the second place runner. Jimmy King driving hard back in 4th place. We have a good race here for 4th place because J. Michael Kelly is back there with him, racing for 4th and 5th.
Yeah, I think when he got the door closed on him, Steve, they lost some momentum for him. It may have hosed him down, but if you have 7 boat lengths, it's okay.
Jimmy Shane goes by start-finish. He's on his final lap. The final lap of the 2015 racing season. Just bring it around 3/4 of a lap, and he'll have the Bayfair Championship to go with his 2015 National High Point Championship.
Steve,
if indeed this is the swan song for Oberto, they're going to go out in style.
As a champ. Now, give some credit to Jesse Robertson. We had to beat up the kid earlier. He's back out here running a good race, did a good job. That's a professional. The guy is going to learn. He's going to get better. Congratulations, Jesse Robertson. To the Oberto. Ran a clean race, started. As you can see, he moved out to make the race course wider for everybody else. Perfectly fine. The 9 moved inside to protect his position. You're seeing a lot of strategy out here to protect positions.
How about Scott Liddycoat racing for Mike and Lori Jones and Jeff Campbell and Mike Campbell and that whole
look
team?
Back here. Look at the Home Street Bank and the 5. What a race. They're not giving up. Jimmy King giving it everything he's got.
And they're racing for 4th and 5th.
Man, both those guys are champs. They don't give up. Had the 3 not lost boost at the start, who knows what would have happened.
I think Kelly's going to take him. It's hard to tell from here on the angle, but I want to talk about Scott Liddycoat. Obviously, Jimmy Shane has won this thing, but a second place finish for Scott Liddycoat after this weekend of racing against the best in the world. Great job, young man.
Absolutely. Yesterday he gets hosed down. He loses power. They don't know if the engine's going to work. Comes out, wins a couple of heats, and gets a second in the final behind our national champion. Outstanding driving.
Now let me check Debbie's official scoring here, make sure we don't have any surprises. First place, of course, Jimmy Shane in the Oberto Beef Jerky. Second place, Scott Liddycoat in the 811 Dig. Third place, Cal Phipps in the Dalton Industries. Cal will be on the podium. Fourth place, the Home Street Bank. Jimmy King held on for 4th. And we have the Graham Trucking in 5th. So we called it wrong from our funny angle, Steve David.
Roger that.
Fourth actually went to Jimmy King. Oops, now we
Why
have.
did the 5 get a white flag? Okay, it was a mistake. He didn't get a white flag. He didn't get a white flag. There was a mistake.
Okay, the 5 is on his white flag lap.
No, he's not. That was a bad.
That was a mistake. Okay, so the 5 got a checkered flag, correct?
The only thing they're doing is they're looking at the overlap when the 9 came over in the 5. It appears as though there was plenty of
Okay.
overlap.
They did look at an overlap situation earlier in the race. They have determined already everything was okay. We may have had a penalty-free final heat, which would be a great thing.
We're reviewing it right now.
You have to put your microphone by your face. Okay. Steve David has so much going on here.
Steve, what I was saying, I was talking to my referees. They're reviewing whether or not the 9 had enough distance to overcome on the 5. You need 7 boat lengths because when he came over, that's when the 5 lost a lot of power. Chances are it ingested a lot of salt water. 7 boat lengths will do that to you, but 7 boat lengths is legal.
We have Jesse Robertson in the Graham Trucking 2 finishing 6th, which means he got around the car star of Kevin Egret, who finishes 7th. Are you telling me that all 7 boats
guys,
finished?
what's our final decision, sir?
Wow, how about that? Boats heading back into the pit area now. Our first place winner, Jimmy Shane, will be corralled by Kay Brewer. She'll bring up into microphone range and we'll have a word from Jimmy. She's been talking to Jimmy all weekend. What a great weekend for the young man who builds rockets in his daytime job up in Kent, Washington for Jeff Bezos.
Thank you, guys. Great job.
A number of the Unlimited drivers are working for that company now. It's going to be a big celebration in Madison. Everybody get on over to Charlie's Place. The Boneyard Grill is where the party will be. And
there's
and
Autoberto.
Look at that.
People lift. Steve, it was a clean final heat, no calls. I got to tell you,
Wow.
as the chairman of this thing, man, a no-call final heat is...
What are the chances of that?
Oh, Lord.
And not only that, I believe 7 boats went out and came back to the pit area.
Absolutely. The 11 obviously came back with some issues, but everybody else finished this thing. It was great, and the Graham was able to run out legitimately because they were, if you were, the backup trailer boat. Jesse really resurrected himself, came back, did a good job.
Second place to Scott Liddycoat, the Virginian, in the 9, the 811 Dig Red Dot. Racing for Mike and Lori Jones, second place on the podium. Congratulations to Scott Liddycoat. And a third place, a podium finish, not surprising, as strong as they looked all weekend, for Cal Phipps and the Dalton Industries 27.
Well, let's voice some sponsors to thank Steve Oberto for all the years they have been in the sport. This may be their last year, but if you'll email the Oberto company and say, keep the Oberto Unlimited Hydroplane Racing, it will certainly help. Second place goes to the U9 811 Dig and Les Schwab Tires. Les Schwab has been with them all year long. 811 was with them as well in Detroit and here in San Diego. Thank them for being on board. We look forward to greater things from him in the future. Home Street Bank, he came on strong. The kid didn't give up. And third place, Dalton Industries, the 27, Charlie Wiggins and Milton Wiggins boat. The kid didn't give up as well. We saw some great driving, clean driving in the final, Steve. Competitive driving.
It looked from our angle like J. Michael Kelly was ahead of Jimmy King as they finished the race, but that tells you how bad our angle is over here, because on the outside, Jimmy King was actually going by him, and I believe that was probably a pretty close finish.
Yeah, and Graham did get wet, and from the air they're saying there was clearly 7 boat lengths, however, so the 9 was protecting his position. Some people will say, well, you should not do that, but he wanted to protect that second place, and you know you got a championship boat behind you, so he had the room, came over, closed it down, and he digested some salt water.
Down in the pit area, Kay Brewer is rounding up Jimmy Shane. It's always difficult, I can tell you from many years of trying myself, to get the winning driver out of the crowd, out of his jubilant team, over to the spot where you need him for the interview. But Kay will do it. She's a trooper, and she'll have Jimmy Shane out there shortly. We wondered for many years, how could anybody ever replace Steve David in the Oberto? And this young, he might not be as good looking, but he can work a race boat, can't he?
The kid has done a great job, and it's, you know, it's funny because it's just like in life. You hope you build a better child than yourself, and in racing you hope a better driver follows you because you want that record to just get better and better and better. So wonderful to hang the torch off to Jimmy and him doing a better job than I did in that boat, and down the road there'll be somebody that'll follow and do even better because we want this sport to progress. We want to attract better drivers and better performances.
And we have to mention again the team, because you left the team the same year that Mike Hansen did, and obviously Mike was a big part of all that success that you had. What would happen now to the Alberto Miss Madison racing team? Well, younger brother Larry Hansen took it over. Jimmy Shane stepped into the cockpit. I don't think they could have asked for a better scenario than the way their last 2 seasons have gone.
Absolutely. Dream seasons. And the thing about the Madison team, Steve, you got 50-plus years of history. So you put a good crew chief in the boat, you put a good driver in the boat, they know how to win. And it's kind of almost like a Penske organization. It's such a good operation. You plug somebody good in it, they'll figure each other out in a couple of races, and they're going to go back to their winning ways, and that's exactly what happened.
Kay Brewer will come into that picture with Jimmy Shane in tow. San Diego media is here in force, or maybe that's our in force.
Steve, on the side of the Alberto, you're also going to see Point Inside. That's a company you're going to hear a lot more about on our sport in the future. Point Inside is a Seattle technology company, works with companies like Target and some of the bigger box retailers. We'll hear a lot more about Point Inside in the next season.
Happy to have them on board. And once again, Kay will be trying to extract Jimmy Shane from the celebration down there and move him a little more toward us so we can pick up her microphone. Seems like she spent a lot of time this weekend talking to Jimmy Shane and J. Michael Kelly and Greg Hopp, and not surprising since those were the guys that ran out front a lot. But a good weekend, Steve, for a lot of the teams who are not going to be on the podium here perhaps, but really had great weekends. We saw great racing from a number of teams.
You sure did. I think, Steve, that in this off-season, what we kind of call the silly season, we're going to see some changing drivers. I think there's going to be some different people in these seats next year. The owners are all ramping up their performance requirements, and you have to deliver as a driver. We have some great drivers. We got some that are maybe going to get a warning. They're going to say, hey, you've got to do good next year, okay? We can't have mistakes. We've got to make good starts. Maybe give them a reprieve and a chance, but our owners have really stepped up to the plate, and they're not about anymore just finishing. It's about they want to win. You're not going to just give it away to the Alberto or to the Graham Trucking Boat or the 9. They want to win.
The equipment in the sport continues to improve. We have new boats coming on. A couple of the newer boats in the fleet looking very, very good. The number of boats, over 150 qualifying for this event, I believe set a record all time. They get faster. The drivers continue to improve. If you think back to the dark ages when I started watching this thing, boy, it's a whole different sport, isn't it?
It really is, Steve. This whole year we've had close racing. This weekend wasn't as close up front because you didn't have the 96 in the mix.
And the 5 had the unfortunate incident on the way
truck.
in.
Exactly. So not as close as our other races, but you look at second, third, fourth, fifth. That was close racing.
Here comes Kay, and I believe Jimmy. Oh, look who's with Jimmy. He has Colton, one of my favorite guys, in his arm. The world's cutest hydro baby. He's coming along with Dad.
And there's another little one to follow, another little boy, by the way.
We're going to have more hydro babies.
Yep, and Bianca, his lovely wife, who used to race Unlimiteds as well as 1 liter mods, she's excited about the child, obviously excited about Jimmy. They've been married now, golly, 5, 6, 7 years, I think. And by the way, his family, I used to race against Stu Shane in the 70s. Stu Shane was a racer. His sister Kelly Shane was a racer. His mother Robin Shane is a racer. Comes from a long
Here we go.
racer.
Here we go.
Here
he
is just pounding for you. That was one heck of a heat. 2015 Bayfair in the book, and you, Jimmy Shane, oh boy, Alberto, are the champion.
Great race. We put ourselves in a great position to have lane 1 there in the final. We knew exactly where we wanted to be. Our timing marks were on, and we were able to hold lane 1. Actually, Jimmy King got up there and stole it from us, cutting the course. And we had a little bit more steam going down to the first turn than he did, and we were able to move over and establish lane 1 after the first turn. And great race for Roberto, great race for the fans at Bayfair. We love coming out here, putting on a show for you guys, and we're going to be doing it for years and years to come.
I plan on seeing you for years to come. And recapping this whole weekend, 3 days worth of racing, top qualifier, every heat you went out, you won.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, a perfect weekend is extremely hard to come by. You look at all the results from years past, it does not happen that often. Top qualifier, winning all your heats and winning the final. It's extremely hard to do. These machines are sometimes very finicky. They take a lot of a beating, and to keep one together really shows how much our team maintenances it very well. We have a great package with all of our crew members. And Larry Hansen's one of the best crew chiefs around, putting together a great race rig for me.
Yeah, you put on a great race. That first couple laps, it was under review for the start. You were right in the middle of that pack. Did you kind of question yourself whether or not you were a little early?
No, I knew I was back a couple of seconds. We had an inside lane, so I knew as long as I stayed within the Arusha tail, I'd have a lane going into turn 1, and we could make up a lot of ground going through there. So wanted to stay clean, wanted to make sure I had a nice start, and the Oberto had some steam coming out of that first turn.
You always got some steam with that, oh boy, Oberto. And once again, 2015 High Point Championship.
Yeah, like I say, I can't say enough about the city of Madison, my sponsor Oberto, and my team. I have to thank my wife and my family for supporting me doing this crazy hobby, and we want to do it.
Ever-growing family, congratulations on the new one coming around the corner. Colton's going to have a little brother to watch out for.
Yeah, hopefully we can get them into the racing gig, and I'm sure it's going to be really hard for them not to get into racing, so looking forward to being a daddy and watching my kids race someday.
Well, I can't wait till next year when I'm congratulating you, Bianca, Colton, and the new one in another victory. Congratulations, Jimmy Shane, oh boy, Oberto.
Thank you very much, Kay, and we lost Jimmy there as one of the boats came out of the water in front of our camera, but how about young Kay Brewer and the job she has done? I think she was born to do this, don't you?
Yeah, terrific addition, Steve, to the team, and we
Looks
look
good,
forward to having
sounds
her.
good, yeah, absolutely.
Again, coming from a racing family, delighted to have her with us, and we hope to have her with us next season as well.
And yourself, sir, I said for many, many years, once we got you out of that race boat and up here on a microphone where you belonged, we could have some fun. It's really been great, Steve. I have enjoyed this as much as any season ever. It's really been fun.
Well, thanks, Steve. Let's make sure we do it again next year, shall we?
Well, at my
At your age. I mean, if you're around.
You don't plan that far ahead, okay? But seriously, it's been a pleasure. And how about Frank and Kelly and their crew, Mark and Alan and all the guys?
Terrific.
Pictures like we have never been able to deliver on the internet previously. And I know the fans across the country and around the world have really enjoyed this coverage. It was free, easy to access, all the things the fans asked for. And you and Bruce Motti get a tip of the hat for putting this all together.
Well, Steve, this is also courtesy really with our teams. We, out of the prize purse of each race, the teams all committed money to fund this free webcast. So if you get a chance to email one of our owners, say, hey, thanks so much for giving us free access to these races over the web. It's not many sports that can do that, but every one of these owners kicked in to make this happen.
I probably should mention Debbie doing my scoring and following the officials on the radio.
If you want to have a happy life, Steve.
Exactly. Happy wife. She does a great job. You've been up here now to see how valuable she is to keeping me in line and let me know what's going on with whom.
And to my wife, Sabrina, who's back home watching this, I will be leaving tonight, honey, at 10:30, and there in the morning, and then we're heading off on vacation for a couple of days. So thank you for letting me have fun out here doing this thing.
And I can tell you, Sabrina, every night the guys would be in the bar having a good time. 8:30, Steve David off to the room, lemon wafers and lemonade, and that was it.
At my age, it was time for porridge at the nursing home, so I had to leave.
Well, Steve, my friend, we'll see you again in some capacity, I'm sure. Again, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks again to Frank and Kelly and the entire crew. I think it's time to say goodbye. We hate to do that, but we have a few more hours of sunshine here in glorious Southern California. Glad to see this event back on its feet and doing so well, because there's no place we'd rather go for a wrap of the season.
Yep, to Bob Davies and to Greg Mansfield and to Jim Kidrick and everybody at Bayfair, to City Councilwoman Zapp that was with us today. We certainly thank them for putting this on. For the H1 staff, Steve, everybody here is a volunteer. They all got real jobs. They'll all be working till midnight tonight to put everything away. To all of them, to our chief referee, Brian Hain, I can't thank them enough. It's the finest group of people I have ever worked with in a volunteer capacity in any organization.
Some of your officials from Seattle, I know, have 5:30 flights so they can be at work in Seattle tomorrow.
Yep.
It's that kind of dedication that keeps this thing afloat. So from Bayfair for the final time in 2015 for Steve David and Kay Brewer, Debbie on stats on the radio, Steve Montgomery saying so long from this beautiful place, Mission Bay. We will see you next spring when the H1 Unlimited Series lights it up again, and we look forward to another great season of racing. Congratulations once again to the Bayfair and 2015 National High Point Championship driver and team, Jimmy Shane, and the one Oberto Beef Jerky. Goodbye for now from San Diego.